of the African people.
Okay, well, moving on to the judiciary. What's going on there? The Nigerian Judicial Council recently rose up and said the former president of the Court of Appeal that was ousted, owing to certain things, certain disagreements, should be reinstated. That Justice Salami, that he should be reinstated. But there are still rumors here and there, or talks here and there. He says he's not withdrawing his case, this is not happening, that's not happening. What is the situation in the judiciary? How is this helping to move Nigeria forward, Nigeria's judiciary forward, or is it moving it backwards? These are some of the things we're looking at today, and we have some legal brains in the studio. Mr. Oluwale Kende, a legal practitioner, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
On this other side, Tunde Kolawole, also a legal practitioner, is here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
We're still expecting one other legal practitioner, Bamidele Atu. We're still waiting for him. He hasn't come in yet, but hopefully he'll come in before we're through. Gentlemen, let me begin with you, Tunde. How do you react to the NJC statement last week, Thursday?
Well, my position has always been very, very consistent. And it is to the effect that it is wrong for anybody to make a recommendation that Justice Salami should come back to the bench. Why do I say this? I want to insist, and I've continued to emphasize this, that Justice Salami has broken so many rules. He has broken so many rules, very unheard of rules, as far as the Nigerian judicial system is concerned. And when a man has broken such rules and all that, you don't solve the problem the way we have attempted to solve it. That is to say, you sweep all the fundamental issues under the carpet just because you say you want to have peace within the Nigerian judiciary. I have had this said times without number, including even eminent scholars like Professor Sagi and eminent jurists like Kayode Esho, that the NJC in the first instance do not have the power, so to say, to have sent Justice Salami on suspension and also to have recommended him for retirement. And when you look at the third schedule of the Nigerian Constitution, you will permit me to read that section. I purposely brought this because there's been a lot of confusion, a lot of muddling up of some of these fundamental issues. You find out in section 21 of the schedule on the NJC, it says that recommend to the president from removal from office of the judicial officer specified in subparagraph A of this paragraph, and to exercise disciplinary control over such officers. So where people got the law, or where on what plank they are standing when they say that the NJC does not have the power to have suspended Justice Salami, baffles me a great deal. And more importantly, when you look around the world, for example, in a place like England, for example, the Chief Justice of England can send a suspension any of the judges over there without any reference from any of the bodies in England. It may be thereafter if the accusation against such a judge is such a grievous one, then criminal positions can be taken against justices and all that. And I want to emphasize, because the last time I was on your program, we got a lot of accusations and all that. Some people even called and said I never knew how to interpret the Nigerian Constitution. And I keep saying this and emphasizing that anybody who has passed through the Nigerian law school will be able to interpret the Constitution. In fact, without being able to interpret the Constitution, there's no way you can graduate from the Nigerian law school. This was a paper I did in 2004 on the National Judiciary and on the NJC, in which I said, and you will permit me to also read, that the assignment of the NJC is the greatest disservice anybody could have done to the Nigerian judiciary. And I went away, made a lot of exposition on why the NJC should not have been established in the first instance. And I will just read the very short.
Maybe before you read.
I wrote this paper in 2004 on the NJC. When I was doing that paper, most of my colleagues, eminent lawyers in this court, were clapping with one hand. Some of them even went to church to do Thanksgiving because NJC was established. And we all saw the danger series, never saw it at that period in time. These same people are now the one castigating NJC for taking some of the services and taking in recent times.
Before you read, you said Justice Salami broke rules.
So many rules.
Tell us about it.
I will tell you. Now, in the first instance, if it is true, and that is yet to be verified and confirmed, that Justice Katsina Alu was the Chief Justice of the Federation, actually approached Salami to provide the course of justice in respect of the Sokoto Election Petition Tribunal. Justice Salami had 2 or 3 options upon which he could have embarked. The first option would have been to say, you will tell the chief judge, the CJN, that you are not going to do that kind of thing and all that. And after you have told him, you either go ahead to do what is right, and if the man tries to frustrate you and all that, you will do a petition to the NJC with the CJN heads. And look, this man has approached me to do this in respect of the Sokoto Election Petition Tribunal and all that, and I don't think it's the appropriate thing to do. I put the paper before you can go ahead and investigate and all that. And then the NJC would have taken representation from the CJN at that period of time. And when they have taken all those representations and all that, the NJC, when they are taking the representation from the NJC, because the CJN is the chairman of that, he will have to step aside because he cannot preside over his own case. The elementary rule is that once you are involved in a matter, you step aside, and then the deputy chairman of the NGC would have presided over that thing. And then when they have collected all the representation from both Salami and the former CJN Kasina Alu and other, you now forward that to the police or the ICPC for their investigations. And then if criminality is established again of the party, you now prosecute them. Because the issues that are involved in this matter is not just the perversion of court, it is a criminal matter. And the NJC has no powers whatsoever to have gone into investigating and apportioning blame and punishment for people who have had to have committed criminal offense. That is one step. The second step he could have taken would have been that, so look, gentlemen, this man has asked me to do this and I don't think it's the proper thing to do. I'm throwing it away. I will resign my appointment. Because he is my boss, there's no way I can continue to cohabit with him, to continue to work with him. Having refused to do his bidding in respect of perverting the course of justice in the matter of the election petition in Sokoto State, he could have taken that option. Another. The other options he could have taken would have been to go on retirement. He would have gone on retirement. And then more importantly, I'm saying this, he could also have done a petition to the Nigerian police or the ICP and say, this man has asked me to do this. And I'm saying it is not even too difficult to investigate such a matter, because when the call was being put to Justice Salami to say, look, come and do this and all that, somebody would have called him to come and see the CJN. When he went to see the CJN, the driver would have driven him to the CJN's office. When he entered there, they would have made reception. It would have said on this day, Salami came to this office to meet the CJN. And they already, I have been to the Supreme Court. There are television cameras everywhere and that would have been recorded at the time that Justice Salami went to this CJN. So the police would have been able to piece all the pieces together and know the clue and then establish the clue that one particular period that Justice Salami actually visited the CJN. What they now discuss becomes another matter entirely.
Okay, let's go to Mr. Kennedy. Are you on the same page with them?
I think I have some areas of agreement with him. First, I think it is not the Nigerian judiciary that is on trial. It is the society, politicians, and some activists, so to say, that are dragging the judiciary into all these crises. The judiciary has its own mechanism for resolving issues, discipline, appointment of judges, and so on. And I think the premise on which you are even starting this program itself, I have issue with it, because we've not had or read any official statement from the NJC that Justice Salami has been recommended for reinstatement. All the reports are to the effect that a source from NJC said this was the resolution. And if we recollect, when Justice Salami was to be suspended, there was a formal statement from NGC, and the grounds of suspension were given. So if he was actually recommended to be reinstated, I'm sure NGC will have issued the same statement, similar statement to that effect. Then subsequently we read reports now that the letter to the presidency on the issue is missing, when NGC itself has not come out to say we recommended. Now, dealing with the issue of Justice Salami itself, I think not to go on what the points he has made. First and foremost, if you look at the genesis, you said the CJN told me to halt the judgment on the election petition appeal from Sokoto. Justice Salami did not tell anybody when the CJN informed him. he did not come out at that time. It was when Justice Salami had that he was being recommended for promotion to Supreme Court that he made that allegation that he was to do it to punish him. And let us look at it. When did promotion become a crime? When did it become a matter of to be objected to? And in any event, people came out to say there are procedures. When the recommendation, when NJC makes the recommendation, the National Judicial Commission will contact you, and then you can object. That issue had not got to that stage when Justice Salami went to the press. An internal issue in the judiciary, he chose to write to the Chief Justice of Nigeria and release the letter to the press. He started the whole thing. Then when the issue went to the press, now the next thing was led to the issue of the setting up of the committee that found him culpable in respect of the allegation against the CJN. But the same committee, the same panel, absolved him of any wrongdoing with respect to the Sokoto appeal and then the Ekiti. So that was the same panel that said, okay, on respect of Sokoto, we don't have any problem with you. In the respect of Ekiti and Osun, we don't have problem with you. But on your allegation against the CJN and the NJC, you lied and that you breached the code of judicial for judicial officers, one of the codes, and then they recommended action. Now he went to court. I also believe since he has gone to court, he should allow the court to decide. If he's not allowing the court to decide, I think the issues that he has dragged the judiciary into now is such that, to me, I don't think he should feel comfortable going back to the bench of the Court of Appeal. Not to mention being the president. He should honorably resign. He will take all his benefits. He has not been dismissed. He has not been sacked. He's on suspension. So he can resign and go. The reference will still be there that he was the former Court of Appeal president. So I think there's so much politics in this issue. And this is not the first time we are having judges being suspended. This is not the first time we are having judges having issues with the National Judicial Council. I don't agree with him that the NJC is a misnomer.
So where does politics come in here?
The politics that recently there was this thing in Ekiti State.
A rally.
There was a rally in Ekiti State.
And that's about the
and you don't have to be told that those kind of rallies are not just by those people you see. There were some unseen hands. And see the response of the governor. They say, "Oh, I will take your report to this thing," and he started talking about his opponents, this and that, without necessarily going to the issues. But what I'm trying to say is that we've seen rally there, we have seen statement being made by ACN. There was a time the ACN made some statement. The PDP, they countered them and said it's not the first time somebody will be suspended. Why are you saying this especially concerning Justice Salami? CNPP in Ekiti also spoke and said, "Oh, call Salami." That's what I'm trying to say. And we look at it from the word go. This issue would not have gotten to this level if Justice Salami had approached the issue in the proper manner. At the hem of affairs of the Court of Appeal, ask him if he was not transferring people and disciplining people.
Okay.
Are you saying all those people were satisfied with what he was doing? How many of such things did you read in the press?
Okay, so the situation here is looks bleak, because it is said that the judiciary or the courts are the hope, the last hope of the common man. If within that last hope there's chaos, how then would the common man's hopes be sustained?
That's a very good question, but before I address it, you allow me to dwell a little bit on the political angle to this whole problems and all that. Like my learned friend has simply said and all that, we probably would not have been hearing much about this Salami issue if politicians are not behind it. When you look at the section of the Nigerian press that are drumming up this Salami issue, you know where they're coming from. It's a very, very rancorous noise coming from the section of the Nigerian press, and we know those who own those presses. And then more importantly too, you want to agree with him from what you have said, and governors have been of organizing rallies and all that. You also look at the genesis of the recommendation that Salami should be recalled back to the bench. Where did it came from? the recommendations, I mean, the panel was set up by the Chief Justice of the Federation, Dairu Mustafa and other. And I have read some of the panel's report and other. There was nothing in that panel before the panel started. There was nothing. It wasn't part of the items that should have been discussed in the first instance, in terms of reference that was given to that panel. But certain people somewhere smuggled that terms of reference into the committee's function. And who are these people who smuggled it in? Basically, the representative of the NBA in that panel. And who are these representatives? You have Wole Olanipekun, who you know is antecedent and is leaning. You had Akeredolu, the former president of the NBA. You also had Olisa Agbakoba and other. These were the people who actually put pressure on that committee to make a Salami issue part of the recommendations and other. And if you look at those who have been taking fat brief from the ACN and some of these other politicians, you can almost predict where the pendulum is going to swing in this kind of a situation. As regards the issue of whether the judiciary is being dragged in the mud and other, there is no doubt about it, because certain judges and some of us practitioners, like I said, some of us lawyers who ought to exercise a lot of restraint when we are handling issues like this have not been able to exercise that restraint. And even more fundamentally, and this is very, very important. Most times when I see journalists talk about the judiciary being dragged in the mud and all, I tend to see some kind of imbalance in that kind of question. Why do I say the judiciary is part and parcel of the Nigerian society? Most of these judges, they don't come from the moon. They are people who were born and brought up in this society. They have friends. They go to churches where they are even members of some committees in the church. They also go to parties, wedding ceremonies where their friends' children are wedding and other. Champagnes are served in those places and other. And when those judges have tasted the champagne and how good it is and other, the tendency is that when they go back to their home, they also in one way or the other will want to find the resources to be able to live those kind of affairs. So why am I saying this? The issue is that this society is riddled with corruption, and you cannot really insulate the judges and the practitioners, whether they be on the bench or at the bar and other, from the corruption that has become the general malice of the entire society. So if you are going to have a judiciary that is responsive to the yearnings and aspirations of the people, a judiciary that is not corrupt, a judiciary that will be able to dispense justice without fear of favor and order. We must tackle corruption from the roots, and that is where my gurus from Justice Salami came from. If you say you are an officer in the temple of justice, the onus lies on you that you must, when once anything that's corrupt, so to say, that is ugly, you must tackle it from the bottom, because we are all deemed to be officers in the temple of justice. Immediately he was out to provide the culture, he ought to have blown the alarm, not to wait until somebody has injured his own interest before he now begin to, because everything he has said to me becomes an afterthought, a kind of rantings of somebody who's done, you just want to save himself. So for us to have a judiciary that is clean, for us to be able to see a judiciary that is able to respond to the yearnings of the people and all that, we must tackle the corruption that is present in the Nigerian side. Like he said, this is not the first time we're going to have this kind of thing. You remember the Egbo case and all that. You remember Justice Ekpeme who delivered the ruling in the midnight, and you remember Abbas Omishore in Shenlong, who went to, was it Edo State and all that, and then it has always been there. Except we have a society that we can punish corruption for wherever it reacts. We are never going to have a headway. So for me, the challenge is not just to identify or isolate the judiciary as being responsible or to be culpable for the problem. Where we must tackle the corruption in the overall interest of the society.
Okay, so now let me ask you this. From the vibes I'm getting, it's like Justice Salami, has a case to answer in all of this.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so where do we leave the former CJN?
No, I think we should, if we appreciate the facts very well. A panel was set up. The panel said, from the statements you made, the suit you filed earlier, you lied that the Chief Justice of Nigeria directed you to manipulate or compromise the election petition appeal from Sokoto. And they said, no, that was not established. You lied, and you have breached the code of conduct. Apologize to the CJN, and then a warning is given to you. That was what the panel decided, which the NJC approved. I don't think the case was supposed to go beyond that. It was when he refused to apologize that they recommended.
Perhaps he was convinced, of
No,
of
yes.
allegations.
No,
So
he has a case in court. So I think that case will determine whether that panel, the finding of that panel was wrong or not. That is the case he's pursuing. He has that case in the federal court against the NJC and the former CJN. So I think that court will decide whether the panel decision was right or not. That will deal with that. But you see now, like he was saying the other time, NJC, and I said I do not agree. Because the NJC was brought up out of the experience of the judiciary in the past to insulate the judiciary from unnecessary manipulation and control, adverse control by politicians. That okay, judges are better in resolving issues affecting the judiciary. That's why you had the NJC there. You saw what happened in Kwara State, that the NJC was not contacted before, or there was no reference made to the NJC before they removed the chief judge, and the Supreme Court said no, you cannot do that. So even the NJC, if the NJC had not been there, all these things we are talking would have been left for the president and perhaps the Minister of Justice to resolve without all these panels and all these deliberations. It would have been just be purely civil service matter. So I see that the issue of his culpability now beyond the level of the panel's report is now for the court to resolve. But the question is that the NJC said, oh, since you did not comply with the directive we issued, okay, you president, suspend him. They didn't even say you should remove him. So, and I think that is the position.
Now,
now.
It is believed that the NJC is like the regulator. We have the NCC for the telecoms, we have NBC for the broadcast industry. NJC is supposed to be like, it's believed to be the regulator for the judiciary.
Yeah.
Now, if the NJC is failing in its duties, what should we do? Or how can the NJC get back to that place? You said at first you were against the existence of the NJC, and I think I wanted to. I think I wanted to read that because you said something. The NJC, that Justice Salami should have submitted a petition to the NJC, which you said should not have been set up in the first place. But now you're saying Justice Salami should have submitted a petition, and then the NJC would have to go and investigate. But you also say the NJC has no power to have gone into a criminal matter. It's like you're speaking from the two sides of your mouth.
No, not at all. Where the NJC is law now, it's also in the constitution. Whether you like it or not, you have to obey the law, and that is the position in which I am operating, because it's not a constitutional provision. Why is my aversion to the NJC? When you look at the function that the NJC is performing, we already have bodies all over the country who are saddled with those responsibility. At the state level, you have the Judicial Service Commission. At the federal level, you have the Federal Judicial Service Commission. But in this country, once we are confronted with a lead problem, what will we do? We engage in a power brigade. We embark on a power brigade, a fire brigade approach to extinguish the fire, and which is clearly not necessary. Are we saying that before the NJC came in force, there were no judicial officers who were committing crime, they were not being punished, and all that? There were. Are we saying that when before the NJC came on stream, that the judiciary was not being financed by the state and the federal level? The finances were going on, and all the corruption that we begin to see in the system now, we now say they were not there in the first, and all those corruptions are slowly been there. You see, the issue is, my argument is that when you have a federal system of government such as we have in Nigeria, the NJC is an aberration. The NJC is an aberration in the federal system of government. It's like the police, and the kind of problem we are beginning with that we have always had with the Nigerian police. And you have a federal police that sits up in Abuja, India, to go and monitor what is happening in the remote area of Mushin, India, in the remote area of Abia State, and the remote area of Jigawa State, and all that. And then it's so difficult for these officers who are posted from far-flung places to come up this place to be able to deal and tackle the problem of crime that have been committed in those places. If we have led the judiciary, the judicial system the way it was, in which we have the Federal Service Commission for the Judiciary, the State Service Commission for the Judiciary, and all that, some of these problems that we have in our wouldn't be having it. The problem, the challenges of funding the judiciary will always be there. It all depends on the executive. Take, for example, what is happening in a place like Gideon. When Asiwaju came in there, he saw that the judiciary have a responsibility to pay, and they ought to be financed the way it should be. He improved a lot of the judicial officers, and all that. It's all about leadership. Most of these institutions that we condemn are not as bad as we tend to paint them. It is those who are managing those institutions that are really the problems and the pain of the Nigerian society. A country like Britain, for example, does not even have a constitution I'm told they operate by Magna Carta or what have you, protocols and conventions and all that. But every problem we have had in our hands now, everybody attributes to the Nigerian constitution and all that. Whereas it is those who are operating those constitutions, even as bad as the NJT seems to be and all that. If we have people who are fearmen, if we have people who have the fear of God, if we have people who will be fair to their oath of office as judicial officers and all that, we probably wouldn't have as much problems that we have at hand today. So, for me, there is no contradiction in what I have said. I'm just saying that as the law it is today, we cannot circumvent the NJC in the swing of judges and all that. But if we are tarried a little while, if we are taking experiences from some of these other clients and other places and other, and if we have been conscious that this is a federal, that Nigeria is a federation, and we there are different federating units and all, wouldn't have established an organization like that. I'll give you an example. In this paper that I did in 2005, I pointed out with the problem where the establishment of the NJC will now become a kind of appellate court, an appellate jurisdiction, whereas it ought not to be. It ought to be just an administrative parliament. But now that once people lose cases in the High Court, in the Court of Appeal, and what do? They do a petition to the NGC and say the judges have committed, have taken money, that is why they are cases. That's certainly when you lose a case, you have about 2 or 3 ladders to climb. If you lose in the High Court, you can go to the Court of Appeal. From the Court of Appeal, you go to the Supreme Court. If you started your case from the customary court, you can travel all the way to the customary court, to the High Court, and then Court of Appeal and all that now. But people now want to circumvent all that. They are blackmailing, they are bastardizing and ruining the names of judges. And then some of these judges have done beautiful works in the past and all that. They just do a petition like Omishori once did against somebody in Oyo State. And not that, I don't think this is the property to do. And then as regards finances and all that, why would a judge in a place like Jigawa be earning the same salary with a judge in Lagos State, as we now find ourselves? And that is the recommendation of the NJC. The volume of work. Shouldn't that be? The volume of work is different. The judges in Lagos have about 20 or 25 million people to service, and the number of cases that goes to the court in the Lagos State is quite far higher than what you have in a place like Jigawa. Quite higher. So you don't begin to pay them the same salaries. You don't. Now, if you want to establish more,
went to the same school and they have the same experience.
I agree. People are going to be paid maybe based on the volume of work they do, not the kind of schools you attend. For example, I attended University of Ibadan, which is the best university in this country. Somebody may have gone to Abia State University and all that. When we go to the labor market, we are probably going to be earning the same salary based on our productivity. That is the way it should be, not based on sentiment and based on where you come from as a person. That is one clause on the part of the NJC. Okay. And there are several other clauses and other things that I've catalogued in my paper.
Okay, let's quickly go back to this reinstatement issue. If Justice Salami is reinstated, what happens to the acting president of the Court of Appeal?
There's no big issue. If the substantive president is appointed, he goes back to his position. He's a justice of the Court of Appeal. Justice Salami is a justice of the Court of Appeal. So they are all justices of the Court of Appeal. The only thing is that the president is heading the court. So if the president comes, he goes to his former position as any other judge. Of course, even in the Court of Appeal system, you still have the presiding justices in the divisions. But they are also justices of the Court of Appeal. And you may find out that a judge who is presiding in Ibadan could be transferred to Lagos, and in Lagos he will no longer be presiding because he will meet a judge that is senior to him.
Please hold on. So we have a caller. Hello, Basi.
Okay, I think Basi is.
Okay, go ahead. We've lost that call.
So I don't think if there is a restatement, the system respects seniority a lot, and it's not an issue. If the president comes in and the process that suspended him is vacated, the acting judge will take his normal position as the second in command.
If I may chip in a little as regards that, I see a crisis being created. Why do I say this? I want to ask an hypothetical question. If Justice Salami is reinstated and then there is a case between the ACN and the PDP, like an election petition, for example, what is going to happen? Is Justice Salami going to have the moral authority to assign such a case to any of the justices in the Court of Appeal, or will he also have the moral integrity and the moral authority to begin to preside over such a case? The answer is no. So you see, that is why in other crimes.
Why is the answer no?
The answer, you see, because judiciary thrives on what we call fair hearing and integrity. Once there is a little doubt, If the people, the litigants who are appearing before you don't have confidence in you, for God's sake, you won't have moral authority to begin to preside over such a case. And I'm saying is, law is not what the judges and lawyers say.
Your thoughts? I think the caller is back.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Chesan from Edo State.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, please, the question I want to ask. Hello?
Hello, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, how can the NJC, which is not a court, ask somebody to apologize for committing perjury? Is apology, would it be suffice to just say somebody should apologize for perjury? So I'm not a lawyer, so I just want those gentlemen to be educators.
Well, you see,
Thank you.
You see, the law and procedure carefully makes a distinction between crime and code of conduct. In fact, it's just like ordinary master and servant. It's well possible for your servant, your employee, to steal your money. You are not dismissing him for stealing because it's only the court of law that can decide and give a verdict that somebody has stolen. But you can dismiss him on the ground that of misconduct, that this is grave misconduct. You have taken the money without authority. So the NJC carefully did not say they were punishing Justice Salami for perjury, because that one will require a judicial determination, calling evidence and drafting a charge. But Judicial Code of Conduct, Rule 1, Sub Rule 1, that he made a statement, a baseless allegation against the CJ and the NJC.
Oh, okay. You were saying something earlier, but based on
let me just add that, of course, that does not stop the NJC from making a recommendation for trial subsequently, but at their own level, they had the right and the power to do what they did.
Please still hold your thoughts. Staying with you, but Justice Salami is in court. He went to court. He took a case to court as regards his removal.
Okay, let's understand the facts. When the initial steps were being taken to promote him, to elevate him to Supreme Court, and he wrote the CJN, then he filed a suit. Now, when the NJC met, they directed him to withdraw his suit and that this matter will be investigated. That was when the panel was set up. When that panel was set up and recommendations were made, giving him warning and asking him to apologize, he now filed another suit against NJC and the CJN. So it's that latter suit that is pending.
Okay.
So that initial suit was withdrawn pending the determination by the panel set up by the NJC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that suit being delayed?
I'm not too sure.
One would have thought that they would have expedited
a kind of
action in that
accelerated
suit,
hearing or thereabout. Well, it's difficult for me to say, but when you look at the backlog of cases,
I may assist.
Okay. Yeah.
I think what happened was that while the suit was pending, they wanted to make it faster. So they applied. Justice Salami's lawyer applied that the matter be referred to the Court of Appeal. They call it reference. A matter pending in the High Court. We feel that this is a serious constitutional or legal issue that you prefer to get the opinion of the higher court. So he applied for brought an application for reference, and it was granted by the High Court. So the Court of Appeal will just give opinion on that issue.
Okay, so right now
because the lawyer to NGC raised an objection that the matter was a matter appropriate for the National Judicial Council, National Industrial Court, classifying it as a labor matter. Now the question is, a judicial officer being suspended, being disciplined, is it an ordinary labor matter? That was what the lawyer to Justice Salami applied to be referred to the Court of Appeal. It's now pending at the Court of Appeal.
No, the question now is, what is causing that delay?
Why it is the system that is causing the delay.
Exactly.
The system accommodates certain level of cases within certain frame of time. Even though some cases are given special treatment, like election petition cases, at the tribunal level, they are dealt with expeditiously within the level that the resources can accommodate. For the electricity is there, transportation is there, you may be held up in traffic in terminal. Then also the issue of the judges themselves. Cases have been fixed and so on and so on.
I understand some calendars could stretch up to the next 5-10 years.
Oh, sure.
No, not I think Supreme Court, but Supreme Court now.
It's possible.
Now we are already taking dates in the High Court between September and October, November. That's after vacation.
Okay.
But I'm sure Supreme Court you can get next year already.
Okay.
They will already give an.
When you look at the researches that have been done over time, and the fastest case that has ever traveled right from maybe the High Court to the Supreme Court takes about 18 years to pass through. So you find that most of these judges have a backlog of cases in their hands, and I have given the example of a place like Lagos State.
Sorry again, I think we have another caller. Hello.
Hello, Adelokun, go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Okay. Contribution to this issue of the reinstatement of Justice Salami or Justice has to do with what we discussed earlier this week.
Go ahead.
The state of the because we are talking of an aspect of what is happening in this country. Because that easy is to take properly than all this, because all things you are saying is just put food on the table of format. Without family or casting, just put food. There are so many problems in this country, more than the judiciary problems. Please need to address these things here. If everything said the movies or the movies, according to what the woman has, is anything hot to take I recommend, those are the things you need to know. And if the NJC said that it is 6 months, what is making difference so long? Those are the issues we need to take. Meanwhile, country is more tension, more than all these personality issues between one judge or other who wants doctor or one. In the state of in fact, discordance in this country.
All right, thank you, Adelokun. Thank you so much. We can't hear you too clearly, so we're trying to make out exactly what you're saying. But if we got you clearly, you're saying what a.
Why is it taking so long?
Sorry. What is that?
There's no way it can be reinstated with the case that is still pending in the High Court. Just like my colleague said, the due process of the law would have to be taken into consideration. If anybody takes any step to breach any of those steps, no, just close the eyes to the case that is in court and other. The same Nigerian president, the same Nigerian people will say, look, the president has broken the principles of fair that is acting outside the judicial tenet. So for me, I would rather want to see a situation in which we'll wait and see how all these things unravel. As regards to the other question you earlier on asked me and all that, if the matter is said to be criminal, why has the NJC taken the kind of position that take? Well, it has to do with this party arrangement in which we find a way of solving problems. If we were to go by principle, we were to go by fair hearing, if we were to see that the due process should be followed in this matter, all that the NJC required to do was to have collated all the reports, all the representation and invite organizations like the ICPC and the police to say, look, these are the papers that were collected from these two gentlemen who have accused themselves of different of all sorts of things and other. You go in there and investigate it and other. And once the police are able to arrive at a certain conclusion, they will arrange the two gentlemen to court. And then this process of the law will be followed. But we always find a way in this country, once there are issues of monumental proportion, we say, look, this is a family issue. Let us find a way to resolve it as a family. And then when it concerns judicial officer, it can't be treated as a family, because here you have both men, both Kasina Alu and Justice Salami, at one time or the other in their lives, have probably sentenced people to death, and such people have been hanged, have sentenced people to prison for one offense or the other. So if such men now go ahead and commit crime, you don't sweep it under the carpet. You approach with all the seriousness that it requires and other. But for reasons best known to the people at the NJC and other, they decided to treat the whole matter as a family affair.
Is it too late now?
It is not too late. It is not too late. That is where the NBA, for example, disappointed me as a person, and then the civil society group. When this matter broke out, what people like us champion was to say, look, the NBA, for example, should start boycotting Justice Salami's court. They should start boycotting the Justice Kasina Alu's court and other, and insist that those two men, their matter be referred to the Nigerian police or the EFC, the ICPC, and that the matter be investigated, and the people, any one of them who is found culpable should be arraigned in the court of law and then punished for whatever crime they have But rather than the NBA taking that kind of position, they decided to side with all of them. They had different camps and sided with one of the justices or the other, which to me is not the thing to do, because you see, the issues are very fundamental. As officer in the temple of justice, we don't sweep such fundamental issues under the carpet. Take for example what the ethics of our profession says. If a man walks into your chamber to brief you and he tells you, look, Oga, I have committed that crime truly, you don't start going to court and say the man has not committed the crime, or you start frustrating or finding a way to frustrate the matter to say, you go to court, look, this man has told me in chamber, my lord, that he has committed this offense. I want to plead with innocence. He is a first time suspect or criminal or whatever, and then the matter is handled that way. But here in Nigeria, you find that once fundamental issues are involved, even lawyers who ordinarily on certain issues will take principal position, once their vested interest is affected, another, you also see them speaking from both sides of their mouth and begin to model up all the processes that ordinarily they shouldn't be modeled up. For me, it is not too late. The civil society group may see have the opportunity, if they want to be fair to their calling, that this matter should not be settled as family matter, that the police and the ICPC, for example, should be invited to this matter so that we can get to better. And I continue to insist that both Justice Katsina Alu and Salami have no place on the Nigerian bench. And it's not too late. Katsina Alu can still be punished, because if it is found that he truly tried to pervert the course of justice in the Sokoto election petition, another, the police can arraign him in a court of law and then he'll be jailed. It has happened in another crime. It has happened.
Okay, in moving forward,
Yes, please.
where do we go from here?
Well, I will suggest that Justice Salami should wait for the outcome of his case, and if the case is taking too long, he can honorably resign, retire, take all his benefits, and for the NJC, if they want to recall him, they should come out and say, we recommend his recall. If they are not doing so, they should not keep the society in suspense and allow the press to be
You see, when I ask the question, moving forward, how do we move forward? I'm also looking at the younger crop of lawyers that are coming up. I mean, we have students in the law school. What kind of example are the older generation of lawyers setting for these ones who are coming? What kind of lesson can they draw from the NJC Katsina Alu Salami issue?
Well, there are. I know there are some negative implications. There's no doubt, but we must see primarily as an issue that arose from clash of personalities. That is working on the facts we have. Of course, there are suggestions, there are allegations here and there, but based on the findings we have, if it is true that the Justice Salami, the NJC, the CJN then did not attempt to convince him to compromise the cause of justice, then we just find that it's a clash of personalities, and that to me is an isolated issue. It happens at the state level. Some judges do have problems with their CJ. It happens at other levels of the judiciary. The question, however, is that if we want to for the sake of posterity, luckily time does not run against crime. You don't say because I committed 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The matter can still be recommended for investigation, since issue of crime is involved, perjury, or the question of compromising election petition, then the law will take its course.
Well, for me, the first task for the Nigerian judicial system is to disband the NJC. That organization is an aberration. It has no place in the federal system of government. It is a duplication of functions and responsibility and wastage of public funds. We already have in the different states of the federation the judicial service commissions. You already have at the federal level and the federal capital their own judicial service commission. And more importantly, the NJC is already being abused. People now see it as a kind of appellate court where they can petition, write petition against judges and blackmail judges, and then also to ruin the reputation that some of these judges have committed. And I also want to say that the Nigerian lawyers and the civil society group should still insist that this matter between Justice Salami and that of Katsina Alu has to do with crime, and it should not be resolved as family issue, that the police and the ICPC should be invited in and then investigate and then prosecute accordingly. And also people should show tolerance judges, like he said, both even at the state level and in different places, it's just like it's happening in the executive arm of government. Once they are there, they don't want the voices of their subordinates to be heard. They deny them their responsibilities, and they don't want certain people to get their dues and all that. For God's sake, once we have reached a level that most judges have reached and all that, you must be able to take sentiment out of the system, act in the interest of fairness and the overall general interest of the Nigerian society. I think that would be the path to moving forward.
Okay, and this issue of clash of personality that he said.
He's there all over the place. I won't mention in a place, even I'm sorry to say, in a place like Lagos, there is one bad case now that we cannot continue to discuss on here now. I know of, it's all over the place.
Thank you so much for coming. We've been looking at the directive by the NJC that Justice Salami, President of the Court of Appeal, be reinstated. Why the delay? That's what we've been looking at. And we have in the studio Oluwale Kehinde, a legal practitioner.
Thank you for
coming. And Mr. Tunde Kolawole, also a legal practitioner.
It's a pleasure to be here.